There comes a point in every woman's journey when something within her quietly shifts. It isn't marked by drama, tears, or raised voices. Instead, it happens in a hushed way, reaching deeper than surface emotions. Picture a thread pulled taut since childhood that finally gives way, and in that silent snap, everything transforms permanently. Suddenly, concerns about whether your wardrobe turns heads, whether your physique meets arbitrary benchmarks, or whether your accomplishments silence those perpetually demanding voices, simply fade away. That invisible burden of constantly proving yourself to a world never truly satisfied lifts. What strikes you as most peculiar is this revelation isn't about becoming defiant or abandoning self-care and ambition. It manifests as something far more nuanced and considerably more empowering. You simply stop requiring external approval as though it were the air you breathe. Carl Jung identified this phenomenon as the individuation process, though he avoided technical jargon in his explanations. He characterized it as that crucial juncture when someone finally stops living an existence others scripted for them and begins authoring their own narrative. For women, this transformation carries distinct undertones. From early childhood, we're conditioned to become stages where others cast their expectations, mirrors reflecting back what they seek, everything except our authentic selves. We reach adulthood carrying masks so weighty we forget actual faces exist beneath them. Eventually, though, that mask begins suffocating. The character you've been performing no longer fits your being. That's when the genuine journey commences, the inward expedition toward the territory where dwells the woman you never encountered, the one you buried to gain acceptance, the one you muted to receive affection, the one you erased to ensure survival. Now then, let's return to this journey. Picture your existence as a dwelling. From the street, it appears solid. The walls display fresh paint. The garden maintains perfect order, everything positioned precisely. When passers-by glance at it, they conclude how flawless the life must be, how balanced the woman, how beautifully everything has been arranged. Yet, if you cross the threshold and truly enter, you'll discover the structure stands empty. No furniture fills the rooms. No photographs adorn the walls. Nothing personal exists anywhere, merely hollow chambers where your footsteps echo against cold surfaces. You invested so much energy decorating the exterior to impress observers that you forgot to furnish the interior. You forgot that dwellings aren't inhabited from outside perspectives. They're lived in from within. One day, the realization strikes that you're occupying a structure stunning from the street, yet completely unlivable inside. This represents the existence of the woman who lives to demonstrate worth. She demonstrates maternal excellence, professional success, partnership perfection, filial obedience, unwavering friendship, everything everyone requires her to embody. But somewhere along the path, she lost the only answer that truly matters. Who is she when nobody's watching? Carl Jung uncovered something unsettling during his years investigating the human psyche. He found that most individuals don't inhabit their authentic lives. They occupy borrowed existences, lives assembled from fragments others handed them, including familial expectations, cultural mandates, social roles, masks constructed for conformity. Jung noted that women of his era carried this burden with particular cruelty. While men received permission to explore, to stumble, to reinvent themselves, women found themselves locked within rigid molds. They were expected to embody purity yet desirability, submission yet strength, self-sacrifice yet fulfillment, an endless catalog of impossible contradictions. Though decades have passed since Jung documented these observations, though society has evolved in numerous ways, this essence persists. Today's women no longer find themselves confined to kitchens. They pursue careers, cast votes, make decisions, yet the cage has become more sophisticated. It's no longer constructed from iron bars. It's built from social media likes, comparisons, impossible standards refreshed weekly across digital platforms. The contemporary woman must achieve success without appearing ambitious. She must appear attractive, yet effortlessly natural. She must demonstrate independence without intimidation. She must project strength while maintaining vulnerability. She must embody everything without revealing the effort required. Under this pressure, many fracture. Jung frequently employed one particular image in his work regarding the persona. The persona represents the mask we wear publicly, the character we perform to navigate social landscapes. Jung emphasized that maintaining a persona is necessary, healthy, integral to societal participation. The issue isn't possessing a mask. The issue emerges when you forget you're wearing one. The problem manifests when the mask adheres so firmly to your skin that distinguishing where it ends and you begin becomes impossible. For countless women, this describes their exact experience. You initially don the mask for that first date, that job interview, that family dinner, and it succeeds. People smile, grant approval, offer validation. Consequently, you wear that mask slightly longer each day, across every situation, until one morning you awaken unable to recall what your face looked like without it. If you've ever felt that mask suffocating you, write MASK in the comments. You attempt removal, and it causes pain because it is merged with your flesh. Then the question arises, if I remove this mask, what remains underneath? That question terrifies you because secretly, you fear the answer might be nothing. But that's false. Beneath the mask isn't emptiness. Beneath the mask exists everything. There's the girl you were before they told you your laughter rang too loudly, before they taught you your body presented a problem, before they explained your intelligence frightened people, before they convinced you your worth depended on how much you served others. That girl still exists there, buried beneath layers of conditioning, silenced beneath years of should-haves, yet alive and waiting. The individuation process Jung discussed represents precisely that, the voyage back toward her. It isn't an easy voyage because it requires dismantling the entire identity you constructed, the complete persona you work to become, all the success you achieved by being someone you're not. It involves facing the mirror and accepting that the woman reflected there is a stranger, and you'll need to know her from the beginning. Let me share something Jung discovered during his patient sessions. Many women arrived at his practice, presenting symptoms lacking medical explanation, including inexplicable depression, chronic anxiety, insomnia, physical pain without apparent cause. When Jung delved deeper, when he genuinely listened, he discovered these symptoms were the soul's cries. They represented the body articulating what the mind refused to acknowledge. I'm living an existence that isn't mine, a woman perfect externally, successful, admired, yet internally a void no achievement could fill. Because the accomplishments she accumulated weren't hers, they belonged to the mask, to the persona constructed to please, to impress, to demonstrate. The cruelest irony manifests thus. The more successful she became at being false, the further she drifted from her genuine essence. It resembled climbing an impossibly tall mountain with superhuman effort, only to reach the summit and realize you climbed the wrong mountain entirely. So what shifts within a conscious woman? What causes a woman to awaken from that collective dream, where everyone competes to become the most acceptable version of themselves? It isn't a magical moment. It isn't instant enlightenment. It's more accurately a profound exhaustion, weariness from pretending, from maintaining, from carrying, from demonstrating. One day you awaken simply lacking additional energy to continue being who others require you to be. Within that exhaustion, within that surrender, exists a strange liberation. Because when you stop attempting perfection, you can begin being genuine. When you stop seeking approval, you can begin hearing your own voice. When you stop demonstrating your worth, you can begin feeling your worth from within. Jung called this the encounter with the shadow. Though it sounds ominous, it represents something entirely different. Your shadow encompasses everything you rejected about yourself, everything you deemed unacceptable, everything you buried to fit in. Your anger, your selfishness, your desires, your darkness. All those aspects you learned to hide because good girls don't feel anger. Successful women aren't selfish. Respectable ladies don't harbor those desires. You spent your entire existence suppressing those parts, pretending they didn't exist, constructing a perfect facade, while everything you rejected accumulated in darkness. But the shadow doesn't vanish simply because you ignore it. It grows, it gains strength, it waits, until one day it erupts, through inexplicable rage that frightens you, through a decision that shocks everyone, through behavior you don't recognize. The shadow doesn't emerge as punishment, it emerges as invitation. It's your psyche declaring, here's what you've been denying, here's what you've been avoiding, here's what you must integrate to become whole. A conscious woman doesn't fear her shadow. She descends into it, she explores it, She recognizes that her darkness isn't something requiring elimination, it's something requiring understanding. Because within that darkness resides her power. Within that shadow exists her authenticity. Within what she most fears discovering lies the key to her freedom. And when she finally confronts it, when she stops fleeing from herself, something extraordinary occurs. She discovers she isn't the perfect woman she pretended to be. She's something far more interesting. She's complex. She's contradictory. She's human. She harbors light and darkness, strength and vulnerability, wisdom and doubt. She's complete precisely because she's imperfect. That's the paradox Jung uncovered. We spend our lives pursuing perfection, attempting to eliminate everything we consider wrong about ourselves, only to discover at journey's end that perfection was never the goal. Wholeness was the goal. And wholeness means embracing everything, the beautiful and the ugly, the comfortable and the uncomfortable, the acceptable and the rejected. A conscious woman no longer divides herself into good and bad parts. She doesn't spend energy suppressing what she deems inappropriate. She integrates everything. She accepts her anger as legitimate emotion. She embraces her desires as valid needs. She recognizes her selfishness as necessary boundaries. She doesn't transform into someone superior. She becomes someone more complete, more authentic, more alive. This doesn't imply she stops growing or improving. It means she ceases improving to conform to external standards and begins evolving according to her own values. The difference is subtle, yet fundamental. Previously, she changed to be loved. Now she changes to be herself. Previously, she grew to impress. Now she grows to expand. Previously, she transformed to fit. Now she transforms because she desires to. Jung discovered another crucial element. He found that many women arrive at this awakening point through crisis, through circumstances that shatter their carefully constructed lives, through loss, forcing them to confront what they've been avoiding, through pain-penetrating defenses they maintained. Crisis isn't punishment. Crisis represents awakening. It's life dismantling what no longer serves you, eliminating what's false to reveal what's genuine. When your perfect marriage collapses, when your successful career suddenly feels empty, when your health fails despite doing everything correctly, when relationships you invested years in crumble, it isn't random. It's your psyche saying, this path isn't yours. This life isn't authentic. These masks must fall. The problem is that most women interpret crisis as personal failure. They believe something is wrong with them. They think they should have tried harder, been better, done more. They attempt rebuilding exactly what collapsed, reconstructing the same life, restoring the same masks. But crisis doesn't arrive for reconstruction. It arrives for transformation. It doesn't come to fix what broke. It comes to reveal what was always broken. And when you understand this, when you stop resisting the crisis and begin listening to it, you discover it's the most generous gift life could offer. Because it's freeing you from a prison you didn't realize you inhabited. A conscious woman doesn't fear crisis. She recognizes it as catalyst. She understands that sometimes everything must fall apart so something truer can emerge. This doesn't mean she doesn't suffer. This doesn't mean she doesn't mourn what she's losing. This doesn't mean the process isn't painful. It means she doesn't interpret pain as error. She understands that certain pains are necessary, certain losses are liberating, certain endings are beginnings. And she trusts the process even when she can't see where it's leading, even when everything feels uncertain, even when she's walking through absolute darkness. Jung stated that this path, this journey toward yourself, represents the most important work anyone can undertake during their lifetime. Not because it's easy, not because it's comfortable, not because it guarantees happiness. Because it's the only path toward authentic existence. Everything else constitutes performance, mask, pretense. And you can perform your entire life. You can excel at it. You can deceive everyone, including yourself. But at your life's conclusion, when you're alone with yourself, when no audience remains to impress, when no masks to wear, you'll confront this question. Did I live my life, or did I live the life others expected from me? That question is brutal. Because if the answer is the second option, if you reach that moment realizing you spent your entire existence being who others needed you to be, there's no return. You can't reclaim lost years. You can't relive what you didn't experience. You can't recover the authentic you that you buried. That's the price of living to demonstrate. You reach the end with a life perfect on paper, with all correct achievements, with every box checked, yet empty, because none of it was yours. It belonged to the mask, to the persona you constructed, and you, the authentic you, remained buried beneath all that external success. So the question isn't whether you'll face this, the question is when, because sooner or later, life will force you to, through a crisis you cannot ignore, through a loss that shatters you, through a void no achievement fills. Life possesses methods for destroying masks when you refuse to remove them voluntarily. When that happens, you have two paths. You can resist, you can cling to the familiar, you can attempt reconstructing the life that crumbled, or you can surrender. Not surrender meaning giving up, but surrender meaning releasing, accepting, ceasing to fight what is. Within that surrender, within that relinquishing of control, you discover something extraordinary. You discover that beyond fear exists freedom. Beyond the mask exists your genuine face. Beyond the need to demonstrate exists the peace of simply being. A conscious woman isn't someone with everything resolved. She isn't someone who achieved enlightenment, overcame all fears, never doubts. She's someone who accepted chaos, who stopped pretending she has control, who released the need for perfection. She's someone who permits herself to be human, contradictory, complex, in process. Some days she's strong, others vulnerable. Some days she trusts, others she doubts. Some days she shines, others she barely survives. She's at peace with all of it because she understood that life isn't a straight line toward perfection. It's a spiral. You rise and descend, advance and retreat, learn and forget and relearn. Each cycle you know yourself slightly better, accept yourself slightly more, liberate yourself incrementally more. There's a beautiful image Jung employed to describe this process. He said the process of becoming who you truly are resembles an alchemist's work. The alchemist doesn't create gold from nothing. He transforms lead into gold. He takes what is heavy, dark, dense, and through fire, through the transformation process, converts it into something luminous. That's you. You don't need to become another person. You don't need to add things you lack. You need to transform what already exists there. Take your darkness and traverse it until you find light. Take your pain and process it until you find wisdom. Take your wounds and heal them until they become scars, reminding you how strong you are. That's alchemical work. It isn't quick, it isn't easy, it isn't comfortable, but it's real. And the real, though it hurts, is infinitely more valuable than the perfect. So what happens when a woman finally releases the need to demonstrate what truly changes? First, she loses certain things. She loses relationships that only functioned because she was compliant. She loses jobs that validated her but depleted her. She loses approval from people whose love was conditional. She loses the version of herself she constructed to survive. Those losses hurt. They hurt like tearing a bandage from a wound, like releasing something you clutched for years, even though it harmed you. But beyond those losses exist gains. She gains clarity about who she truly is. She gains authentic relationships with people who love her for who she is, not what she does. She gains internal peace, no external achievement provided. She gains freedom to make mistakes without collapsing. She gains her own life, and that's priceless. Because ultimately, life isn't measured in achievements. It isn't measured by how much money you accumulated, how many likes you obtained, how many people admired you. It's measured by how much you truly lived, by how many times you spoke your truth, even as your voice trembled, by how many times you chose authenticity over approval, by how many times you dared to be yourself when being who others expected was easier. Those moments count. Those moments at your life's end will make you declare it was worthwhile. Not because it was easy, not because it was perfect, but because it was real, because it was yours. This message isn't for everyone. Most people prefer living asleep, prefer the comfort of unconsciousness, prefer following the current without questioning. That's fine. Everyone chooses their path. But if you've reached this point, if you've heard every word of this video until the end, then you're different. Something within you is awakening, something that can no longer continue pretending, something that can no longer keep sleeping. That something is your soul requesting passage. It's your essence declaring, now is the time. Now is the time to release the masks. Now is the time to stop demonstrating. Now is the time to live your own life. Yes, it's frightening because you don't know what exists on the other side. You don't know who you'll be without the masks. You don't know if you'll be enough. But here's the truth. You've always been enough. You always were. They simply convinced you otherwise. They taught you that you needed to be more, do more, demonstrate more. But it was false. You were always complete exactly as you are. So what do you do now with all this? What do you do with this restlessness that awakened, with this truth you witnessed, with this calling you heard? You don't need to transform your entire life tomorrow. You don't need to resign from everything and start from zero. You simply need to begin small. Begin by saying no when you want to say no. Begin by occupying space without apologizing. Begin by releasing a relationship that depletes you. Begin by doing something solely for yourself without justifying it. Begin by looking in the mirror and recognizing the woman you see. Small steps, but conscious steps, authentic steps, your steps. With each step, you'll know yourself slightly better, liberate yourself slightly more, approach slightly closer to who you truly are. That's the journey. It has no ending, no goal, no arrival point. It's simply the constant process of becoming the most authentic version of yourself. That process, though sometimes solitary, is the most beautiful one you can live, because at day's end, the only thing you truly possess is your own experience of being alive. That experience can be a well-performed lie, or it can be an imperfect truth, but real. You choose. Jung spent his life exploring the darkest corners of the human psyche, and discovered that in that deepest, darkest, most feared place, no monster dwells. Your true self lives there, complete, authentic, free, waiting for you to have courage to descend seeking it, to regard it without fear, to accept it without judgment, to integrate it without shame. When you do, when you finally find that deep core, something magical happens. You no longer need the world's validation because you found internal validation. You no longer need to demonstrate anything because you know who you are. That knowledge, that interior certainty, is the most powerful thing you can possess. Because nobody can take it from you, nobody can deny it to you, nobody can steal it. It's yours, and it always was. If you've reached this point, you're no longer the same woman who began this video. Something within you moved, something awakened, something changed, even if only 1 millimeter. That's all you need to begin. Remember this, you don't need to demonstrate anything. You never needed to. You were always enough, exactly as you are. If today you decide to release the need to demonstrate, write "I am enough" in the comments.